Deep Meditation with Bodhisattva Sri Swami Premodaya, recorded live in Los Angeles. You are a rocket ready to launch.
So these meditations are not traditional. They're not to take you to some different level of consciousness. They're not designed or meant to give you a certain experience. They're really meditations of understanding. All spiritual development is deeper understanding. If understanding isn't part of it, then nothing real has happened. So with that understanding, just allow yourself to relax and to really be here and really be in your body and really be in your chair and really be in this room. And just let your eyes fall closed without any effort and listen. Without any doing. And my job is to do the best I know how to impart some understanding that helps you go deeper. Helps you get closer to that which can't be spoken, can't be put into words, and can only be understood with the heart. Even though it's about understanding, it's not mental. It's not conceptual. You start with a concept because that's how we understand. It starts with the mind. But then it has to fall, it has to permeate to a deeper level. The deeper level is beyond the mind. The deeper level has nothing to do with the words or the ideas. But it does have to do with the deeper understanding. In fact, you can gauge your own spiritual progress, your own level of awareness by asking yourself, has my understanding broadened? Has my understanding deepened? If the answer is yes, then you've advanced spiritually. If the answer is it doesn't appear that it has, then know well that you may have advanced in some other way, psychologically, emotionally, but spiritual maturation hasn't happened, and it really is a process of maturing. All maturation, whether it has a physical aspect, whether it has any other aspect, always involves greater understanding. You understand much more today than when you were 5, and you understand much more when you were 15 than when you were 5, but you understand much more today than when you were 15. And on the spiritual level, it's possible to understand much more in the blink of an eye. It's not a time-bound maturation process. It can happen quickly. It can even happen instantly if you allow your whole self to be involved. One very important understanding that very few people talk about, and very few people, even less, really understand. Involves how we deepen spiritually. So understand that this life that we think of as a human life, or that you may think of as my life, or my mom's life, or my sister's life, or my child's life, any human life is a vehicle for spiritual understanding and advancement, spiritual depth. This life is the launching pad. It isn't the goal. It isn't even the base. It's the launching pad. You are meant to ascend from it. Now, what people get confused about, or simply don't recognize, is that it's not about perfecting this life. And then if you perfect it well enough, if you fix yourself, if you grow emotionally and grow psychologically and even grow spiritually, that somehow you'll get better and better. And in this human form, as this life, you'll somehow get perfected, and you'll get there. You can't get there through this life. This life is the launching pad. The launching pad has a limited use. Once the rocket's launched, you don't need the launching pad anymore. It doesn't have a function. It has an initial function only. Once you're off the ground, you don't need it. It becomes obsolete. It's vital. You can't get off the ground without it. There's no launch without a launching pad. But people get stuck thinking, well, it's about improving the launching pad, and then I'll take off. So the deeper understanding, the understanding I want to offer you, is it has nothing to do with the launching pad other than to get launched. You'll never perfect this life. You'll never make yourself so good, no matter how hard you try, that what you really want, the spiritual, somehow comes out of that, somehow happens through that perfecting process. That doesn't mean there isn't value in getting better in certain ways, in getting less emotionally dramatic, in getting less argumentative, in having less problems in your life. It doesn't mean there isn't a value to getting on better with people. It doesn't mean there aren't issues to address. It means addressing those isn't what gets you to where you really want to go. Where you really want to go has nothing to do with these things. It's beyond those things. So to get there, it's not that you perfect this life. It's that you develop enough understanding, enough willingness, enough openness, enough heart, that a day comes that you transcend this human vehicle, this life. Suddenly, whether it takes years, decades, or minutes, this life becomes not the focus. This life doesn't have the hold on you that it did before. Suddenly you know, you understand, you feel that this isn't what it's about. This is just the launching pad. And then this life gets lived from that transcended space. Then this life takes on a much wider meaning that has to do directly with, some call it truth, some call it realization, some call it God, some call it higher consciousness. Whatever you call it, that's why you're here. You wouldn't be at an event like this, doing a meditation like this, otherwise. So know well that that's your real purpose. Whatever other purpose you think you have, that's your real purpose. And that means something in you has heard the call and is answering the call, that transcendence is possible. That this life can be lived in a whole different way. That the possibility of this life has nothing to do with the pleasures or pains of this life. That the potential of this life has much more to do with truth. That reality doesn't much care what the small facts and small happenings of this life might or might not be. But it does care whether you've been launched. Whether this life is moving toward something real, something permanent, something bigger than this life and higher than this world. And it's that understanding, whether you're conscious of it or not, it's that understanding that brought you here. But now have an even broader understanding that it's that call that's brought you everywhere. Anywhere and everywhere you've ever been. It's that call, that knowing, that has moved you in every direction you've ever moved. Until that ascension, that transcendence gets firmly established, unless the direction has been absolutely established, until then, everything is a movement toward that. That's the natural urge. That's the urge that's in everyone. Expressed or not expressed. In some lives, expressed. Certainly in everyone's life who's here or listening to this, it's been expressed and is seeking far more expression, wider expression. But for most of the people on this planet, it hasn't been expressed. Which simply means they haven't gotten that far down the road yet. You're a little further down the road than most. Be glad of that. That's to your credit. But don't be glad in an egoistic way, patting yourself on the back. Be glad in the real way, that somehow grace has allowed you to be one of the lucky few that gets further down the road in this lifetime. Be grateful. See it as a gift. And it means one and only one thing, that for you, you specifically, you in this lifetime, in this body, in this place, in this time, you are capable of transcendence. You can fully launch. You can leave the ground and absolutely travel far. It simply means you have that absolute potential in this lifetime, just as you are now. It doesn't mean if you change radically, fix yourself. It doesn't mean if you make yourself different in this way or that way, or improve yourself somehow. It means just as you are right now, with every flaw, every quirk, every tendency to make mistakes, every petty feeling, every stupid motive, just as you are right now. See it as the universe made you just as you are right now. So how bad can you be? All these self-judgments are circular. They don't get you anywhere. Spiritual maturity always includes you stop beating yourself up. You start to see that things are how they are. And you can focus on what's wrong and spend the rest of your life going around in that circle. Or you can open yourself more to the higher call you've already heard, you've already responded to, that is calling you to transcend, that is calling you to move beyond the concerns of personality, the concerns of daily life, the concerns of worldly events. This world is the way it's always been and the way it will always be. Things change in it, but nothing really changes. The form changes. Even our response to it changes. But it's the same old thing. It's the same wine in a different bottle. So your focus can be on the bottles, or it can transcend the bottles. It can transcend being concerned with what shape and what color and what age bottle is it. And it can concern itself with the essence, with what's in that bottle. What can be drunk? What can be taken in? What can be tasted? What can become part of you? What can flow through you? That's transcendence. Change of focus. Developing enough understanding, enough maturity, that small things no longer occupy all your attention. Whether you're a little richer or a little poorer, a little better off or a little worse off, a little friendlier or a little less friendly, a little healthier or a little less healthy. These won't change anything important for you. These don't touch the essential. The essential is way beyond any of these material concerns. And that doesn't mean don't have material concerns. It means have them in the proper perspective. You have to take care of yourself. You have to have a certain minimum level of health to function. You have to have food on the table. You have to have a bed to sleep in, or at least somewhere to sleep in. But most of us spend 99.9% of our life energy on these things. Spiritual maturity means you spend only the time and energy needed, which is far less than we usually think. Whether it's 1% or 10%, or even 20%, or even 30%, but it's definitely not 99%. When you come to understand that more deeply, then your attention is freed up. You're freer to plug in and come to things that are far more essential, that have something more to do with eternity and infinity than your bank balance or what kind of car you drive, or whether you'll die at 80 or at 90. Or whether you'll get married for a fourth time. This life is a calling to a higher life. Where people get stuck most often is thinking this life is about this life. If I can just be happier. If I could just change a few things. If I could just get this or that. If I could have a little more pleasure or a little less pain. But this is immaturity. Because this life includes all of it. Pleasure and pain are part of every life. Having more and having less are part of every life. Everybody who's had more has had less and will have less at another time. Everybody who has less has had more and will have more in another time. The life is short, but it's long enough that there are seasons of having more and seasons of having less. It's long enough that there are seasons of pain and seasons of pleasure. You just have to have reached about 20 years of age to know that. You don't have to be 80 to see that. Maybe if you're 12 or if you're 16, you can't see that yet. But if you're past your teens, it's there to be seen. So that's the first basic understanding, that it's not about this life. Now, once that's understood, really gotten, it starts to spread out in you. It starts to touch everything that you touch. It starts coming into more and more thoughts that are already there, more and more feelings that are already there, more and more experiences that would have happened anyway. But now it's all happening with a different perspective. The call gets louder. The call to the beyond becomes more audible. You respond more to it, and consequently it responds more to you. A deeper exchange between you and the universe starts to take place. A more direct connection starts to get felt. You start to see something different in a stranger's eyes. You start to taste something different in your breakfast. You start to feel something different. For no particular reason, other than you've gone further. The perspective further down the road is different than less far down the road. And the road winds upward. It's not a straight road. It takes you a little bit higher the further you go. So more of the landscape becomes visible. And the horizon keeps calling you, as it's already done in this lifetime. It keeps calling you further. Once all this is clear to you, in whatever form it gets clear to you, a second understanding becomes possible. Even broader, even higher, even more significant. You start to see the help that's being offered. You start to have a sense that there's support for you. You start to recognize that many, many things, and the truth is everything, can support that deepening, can support your more fully answering that inner call. It isn't just one place that it's offered. It isn't just one teacher, one book, one spot in nature. One set of circumstances, one set of feelings. Help is everywhere. Because if this life is meant to be the launching pad, if this world is the starting point for a higher world, how can anything in it not be supporting that movement, that transcendence? The launching pad isn't the launching pad on one side and not the other. The launching pad is the launching pad. Whatever part of it you're standing on. The left side isn't more the launching pad than the right side. So anything, not just anyone, anything can be your teacher. Any experience can deepen you. Any feeling of any moment can take you higher. A dog can teach you about greater love. A tree in the rain can teach you about surrender. A mountain can teach you about stillness. An ocean can teach you about depth. A blade of grass can teach you about humility. A sunny day can teach you about peace. There's nothing in this life or in this world that isn't a teaching vehicle. But are you a learner? Are you a rocket ship willing to launch? And that's not a frivolous question to ask yourself. Because most of us aren't. We're not willing. Because it means leaving the launching pad. It means actually giving up certain concerns. It means actually allowing the transcendence. It means actually stopping focusing on getting a better car. Get a better car. Nothing wrong with it. But it means you stop devoting your life to this pursuit of a better car. Or at least X amount of energy and time and effort and thought to acquiring it. Give it the thought and the time and the energy it needs. Very little. But most of us give it 50 times what it needs. So that actually has to be let go of. It's not enough to understand. You have to do it. And then you're lighter. Then your attention is freer for what's more important. The reason most of us aren't willing is because you actually have to give some things up. It's not enough to feel willing and say, yes, that sounds right. And not actually let go of them. That's what most of us do. We say, yes, I shouldn't be so focused on the material, while we keep focusing on the material. So know full well the help is there. It can come in human form. It can come in non-human form. It can come directly from the source. It can come from the all and the everything. People say, well, so-and-so became an enlightened master and he didn't have a master. Yes, he did. It may have been a tree. You don't know. It may have been the ocean. You don't know. It may have been the all and the everything. But that's difficult. That's for rare individuals. Most of us can't plug into something that huge, that abstract. No problem. That's not to our discredit. But plug into what you can plug into. And that can take you anywhere that it's possible to go. It's not about a better teacher. It's not about a better book. It's not about a more accurate philosophy. It's about actually making use of what's actually there and allowing it to affect you. If you're moved by a sunset, can you be really moved? All of you? Can you be willing in that moment of being moved to open your whole self totally to what's stirred in you? If a book leaves you feeling profoundly moved, profoundly reached, if your intelligence and your understanding grows through it, can you let that permeate every aspect of your life? A book can be your teacher, but only if you allow it to affect everything, all of you. Most of us are holding back. We allow a little bit. We allow here or there. So this is a great clue. If something moves you at all, let it move you much more. If something opens your heart a little, throw yourself into it completely. We miss these clues. We don't interpret them rightly. Anything that stirs you, anything that moves you, anything that opens you, is helping you towards transcendence. Can you give yourself more fully when those moments happen? Because those moments happen to everyone, and they happen to you. They can act as a signal. Now's the moment. Be more willing now. Drop my defenses now. The universe is always ready to help you in any moment, in any form. Everything is a message directly to you. every word you hear from whatever source, everything your eyes see, anywhere you go, anything your skin touches or feels, any experience or perception inside or outside, let me say it bluntly, is a direct message from God to you. How huge is that? Every second, every breath you take, God is trying to reach you. How big is that? There's a force trying to pull you upward every second. And it comes to you in the form of everything that comes to you and anything that comes to you, good or bad, painful or pleasurable, no matter what your perception of it or your interpretation of it. It's the beyond text messaging you. The more you recognize that, the more the message becomes intelligible. The more clues you get about what it means. The launching pad is completely in communication with Control Central. Otherwise, how can there be a launch? So every communication is about launching and about climbing higher. Every communication is about the flight plan for transcendence. That includes every thought that goes through your mind. That includes every sensation that arises in your body. That includes every emotion you've ever felt or ever will feel. It's all plugged in. You're not lacking anything. If you have ears, the microphone is open. If you have eyes, the windshield is clear. If you have feet, the launch activity is possible. There's nothing preventing you. There's nothing holding you down or holding you back. And any feeling to the contrary that you may have, and we all have them, is self-deception. I say to you, you lack absolutely nothing. Nothing required for that launching pad ascent. Nothing required for that absolute transcendence. You're fueled and ready to go. That's what it means to be alive, fueled and ready to go. If you're alive, that's the position you're in. But most of us get stuck sitting on the launching pad. We build a little house there. We buy some furniture, decorate, and after a while we forget that we're living on a launching pad. If enough time goes by, we decide to redecorate. Spiritual maturity is suddenly waking up to the fact that, oh my God, I've built my house on a launching pad. when it wasn't even about building a house. It was about cooperating with the launch. It's not about this life. It's not about how this life turns out. It's not about how good or bad this life is. How bad it started, how good it can be. How good it started, how bad it's getting. It's not about any of that. It's about transcending this life. And starting to see that this life is happening in something that's much bigger than this life. Much truer and clearer than this life. You've heard the call. Maybe even you've deeply answered the call. But have you given everything? Have you allowed it to launch you? The measure is, where's my concern? Is it mostly on the things of this life and this lifetime? Or is it on the transcendental possibility? Because once it is, that becomes unmistakable. Once it is, then most of your thoughts, whether you want it or not or like it or not, become about that which is transcendent. Most of your feelings, most of your experiences, most of that which your attention goes to, unmistakably becomes about that which is beyond. That which is here now, but from the beyond, instead of the little things that can be easily dealt with. Help is everywhere. You've been given this life to avail yourself of that help. Have you done it? Have you let yourself be helped? Have you allowed a force, an energy, a pervasiveness stronger than you, bigger than you, to truly influence you, to pull you up? Because ultimately it's about allowing, it's about willingness. The willingness to allow that which wants to help you, that which wants to, with its own force, bring you up, bring you higher, lift you up, Are you allowing it to? And it's easy to be conscious of it. Every time you're moved by anything, you sense something, you feel something in you. Whether it's music, whether it's a painting, whether it's the touch of a child, whether it's the look in your lover's eyes, whether it's a soft breeze across your skin. Every time something touches you and you feel an inner stirring, that's a signal. It's that inner stirring that has to grow. It's a signal, be more vulnerable now, in this moment of stirring, in this moment of something opening in you. Open more. That's the help trying to get to you. Are you cooperating? And it's not just about being moved by beauty, about being touched by love, about being affected by anything. It's not about those things in and of themselves. It's about the potential hidden within those, the much larger potential to open to everything, to be willing to let the beyond claim you in a much bigger way, to be launched. Everything in you, everything around you, all vehicles for transcending. But what are you transcending? This limited life. That arises and occurs in an eternal, much larger life, an infinite life. This infinite eternity that this life happens in. This eternal infinity that this life happens in. It's not about this life. It's about the eternity and infinity that this life happens in. That's where you really are. Because that's where this life is. All the help, all the messages are about getting you to see that with your own two eyes. Are you cooperating? The messages will keep coming endlessly. No matter how much you don't cooperate, no matter how much you don't allow, the messages keep coming because the universe is not wired to give up on you. You don't have to earn it, and you don't have to do anything to get it other than be willing. The help is always flowing toward you. If you can open your eyes, you can see the help. And if you get sick and go blind, the help will come through your ears. And if you go deaf, the help will come through your skin. Everything is a message from the divine. And every message includes a subtext. We're here to support you. We're trying to help you. Transcendence is possible. Not just for anybody, but for you specifically. Let us help you. It's always saying, let us help you. That's why it's about willingness, allowing, and surrender. A helper always can be more effective when the one helped allows. And the helpee, the one being helped, in one way or another, always has to surrender to that which is helping. It's not about a one-up or one-down position. It's about the effectiveness. You can have the most effective help in the universe, but if you're not cooperating, it won't be much help. Are you cooperating? Are you relaxing and letting the help do its job? This is spiritual maturity. This is the deeper understanding that help is everywhere. In any and every form can it come. In any and every moment can it come. In every form and in every moment it is coming. Everyone who smiles at you is offering it. Every thought that comes to you can turn into a higher thought. Every feeling that flows through you can open into greater love and that which is far beyond emotion. Everything is the potential for the divine. Your job is to take the help, to let Control Central launch you. Your job is to cooperate. Your task is to understand that it's all trying to help you. Every problem that comes, every anguish, every pain, not just every pleasure and every wonderful moment, every moment is trying to launch you. The support is endless and massive. You may find it most directly and effectively, you may be best able to plug into it in the form of a teacher, a philosophy, or beauty, or nature, or art. But whatever form allows you to climb higher, please cooperate with it more fully. Let it take you over. You have nothing to lose. It may be the one that launches you once and for all. So that there's no going back to sit on the launching pad. It's not about this life. It's about what this life exists in. Let everything that comes to you help you to understand that more deeply. Let everything that calls to you or touches you bring you more fully to that. You have the support of all of existence. You always have, whether you know it or not. And you always will, whether you believe it or not. You can afford to relax. You can afford to let go. You can afford to take off.